Hello, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoy real, heartbreaking cheating stories from Reddit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. This is a story that's been haunting me ever since I read it, not because of any loud betrayal or dramatic twist, but because of the quiet devastation that follows when trust vanishes without reason. It's about a man named Elliot, 46, from a small lakeside town near Traverse City, Michigan, who found his world collapsing under the weight of an accusation that came out of nowhere. Elliot has been married to his wife, Nadine, 43, for 13 years. They had been together for 16. Their story began in the most unexpected place, just after Elliot was medically discharged from the Navy. He was recovering from surgery at a veterans hospital in Grand Rapids when he met Nadine, a nurse on his ward. She was kind, gentle, and tired in a way that made her feel deeply real to him. Nadine had been divorced for a few years and was raising her daughter Leela, who was 5 at the time. After leaving the military, Elliot went back to school and eventually became a remote software developer. Life slowly took shape. They dated carefully at first, taking their time for Leela's sake. There was no rush. It felt solid, genuine. Eventually, Elliot moved in, and they built a life together. Nadine kept working as a nurse, and Leela, who had no real contact with her biological father, who was working overseas, started calling Elliot Dad before her 6th birthday. Until just a few weeks ago, Elliot would have said that his marriage was steady, not perfect, but full of love. They argued like any couple. In the beginning, he admits he wasn't great at housework. He'd never lived with a child before and underestimated just how much energy and chaos kids could bring into a space. But they figured it out. There were no real issues in their blended family. Leela had grown up into a thoughtful, bright young woman, now away at university. The three of them had made it through life's storms. Birthdays, sickness, missed bills, quiet holidays, always together. Elliot was proud of their relationship, of how far they'd come. They even tried for a child of their own at one point, but it wasn't meant to be. That disappointment hurt them both, but they moved forward. He never once imagined betrayal or the suspicion of it would become the crack that split their world in two. But here he was. The past few months had been hard on Nadine. Since the pandemic, she hadn't been the same. Elliot noticed it in the small things. How she stayed silent over dinner, how her voice carried more bite, how she snapped at Leela over nothing. Her spirit, once so vibrant, had dimmed. Elliot asked her more than once to consider stepping away from work for a while. They could manage financially on his income at least, temporarily. He thought maybe she was approaching full-on burnout. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Then last month, everything cracked. He sat her down again, gently, to bring it up. Take a break, rest, just for a while. But instead of the weary sighs or quiet resistance he expected, Nadine exploded. She shouted at him, accused him, said she knew exactly what he'd been doing, claimed she'd known for months. Elliot was stunned. At first, he genuinely didn't understand what she meant, but her words kept tumbling out. Accusations of infidelity, vague references to another woman, and something about having proof. He felt heat rise in his chest, not from guilt, but from disbelief, and then from anger. He picked up his phone and handed it to her, unlocked, told her to check everything. He opened his laptop too, logging into every account he had. Reddit, Hacker News, a few tech forums. No Facebook, no Instagram. No secret messages, nothing. He even opened Discord and Slack. Go ahead, he said. Check everything. But she didn't. She refused. Wouldn't even look. Her rage only deepened. And then, without warning, she hurled his laptop across the room. Something inside him broke in that moment. He left. No yelling, no fight. He simply picked up his keys and drove to his parents' house. On the way there, Her calls and texts started pouring in, furious messages laced with the name of a woman she was convinced existed, a ghost, a lie. That night, I called her once, just to say that I needed a few days, that I was too angry to talk. The next morning, my sister phoned. Apparently, Nadine had also called her multiple times to check whether I was actually staying here. After a few more days of silence, I tried again. I called Nadine. For a moment, it felt like we might actually talk. She apologized for throwing the laptop, said she'd been enraged by how calm I'd stayed. I wasn't calm, I told her, my voice cracking. I was furious. I just didn't want to shout at my wife. But the conversation soured again. She accused me of twisting her words, of hiding things, of being someone she no longer recognized. And I felt the same way. She kept repeating it over and over again, that she knew I was cheating, that she had proof, and that there was no point in hiding it anymore. I stayed quiet at first, hoping she'd calm down, but when she wouldn't stop, I asked her directly what the proof was. I told her I needed to see it, that I deserved to see it. She didn't answer me right away. The tension just sat there, heavy and ugly. And then she said she was going to send everything to her lawyer. I remember standing there in the hallway, stunned. My voice was low and tired when I replied, "Fine, send it to yours and make sure to send a copy to mine." That stopped her. She went quiet for the first time in days. "You're serious?" she asked me. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. I'm not staying in a marriage where my wife thinks I betrayed her and refuses to even tell me why. That was the last thing either of us said before the call ended, and since then, I've been at my parents' house just outside Traverse City. My dad has been supportive. He's quiet but firm. He believes me, and he thinks Nadine has been unraveling for a while. My mom, on the other hand, keeps trying to make sense of all this. She says Nadine is under too much stress, that this can still be fixed if we're both willing to talk. She wants to believe we're still okay, somewhere deep down. My sister is stuck in the middle. She's upset that Nadine dragged her into this, calling her several times to check whether I was actually staying here. She thinks we're both spiraling, maybe in different directions, but still downward. She's angry, tired, confused. And Leela, poor Leela. She's miserable. She hasn't said so much, but I can see it in her texts, in the way she takes forever to respond. She's being torn in two, and she doesn't know how to navigate it. One parent is hurting, the other is unraveling, and she's trying to make sense of it all while still holding on to her future. Sometimes I wonder if I should have handled it better. Maybe I jumped too quickly. Maybe I should have kept my voice softer, held off on the lawyer talk. But I was angry. Not loud angry, just full of sorrow and disbelief and pain I didn't know how to carry. And now I'm trying to keep working, attending remote meetings with a smile that doesn't reach my eyes, and pretending like I'm not unraveling too. This morning, after I wrapped my calls, I told my mom I might need her help. I asked if she could reach out to Nadine, just to suggest therapy, couples counseling, anything. Because deep down, I still hope this isn't the end. I want to believe there's something broken here that can still be repaired. Some of you might be right. Maybe there's a missing piece I haven't seen, something beneath the surface. I just don't know if that something is a failure on my part or if it's all just projection from Nadine's side. I want to believe I haven't done anything wrong, but I know life isn't always that clean. What I do know is that Leela will always have a home here. I told her again last night, no matter what happens between her mom and me, she's my daughter. She always will be. But I also won't pull her in any further. That's her mother. I won't put her in the position of choosing sides. I took a break this afternoon and decided to read some of the responses I'd gotten. I couldn't get through them all. There were too many. But one question came up a lot. People asked if I was actually cheating. No, I'm not. I've never cheated on Nadine, never even thought about it. Sure, I've been attracted to people, it's human, but I've never acted on it. I love my wife. I always have. Maybe that's not enough anymore, but I swear on everything I have left, I've never been unfaithful. Then there's the theory that maybe she's cheating. I don't think so. She's home every night like clockwork. She doesn't hide her phone, her laptop's always open. But yeah, could there be someone at work? It's possible. I don't think so, but maybe I'm just refusing to see it. People say those are the famous last words before everything crashes. About the divorce. That night, when I told her to send the proof to my lawyer, I wasn't calm. I only sounded calm. The truth is, I have PTSD. I've spent years in therapy learning how to regulate myself when things feel too big. If I don't stay still, I unravel, and I couldn't afford to unravel then. That said, I don't know if I really want a divorce. Not yet. Not after 16 years. But I also can't go back, not until I feel safe again. Maybe it's hormones. She's been on them since her procedure in her early 30s. The doctors monitor her levels every 6 months. Her last appointment was in March, and the mood swings even started before that. So maybe it's something else. I think it's her mental health. She's been carrying burnout for years, and I watched it slowly eat at her. That's why I kept suggesting time off, especially this past month when everything fell apart. I don't think she's evil, I think she's drowning. That's why I haven't called a lawyer yet. Not really. I'm still hoping the version of her I fell in love with isn't completely gone. My mom's already involved, more than I ever planned. She and Nadine have been close for years, and since all this started, Mom has been calling her every day to check in. Nadine has no relationship with her own family, so in a way, my mom became her stand-in. That's part of why this hurts so deeply. I'm not really asking my mom to take sides, just hoping she'll gently suggest marriage counseling the next time they talk. I've been careful not to drag anyone else into this. I haven't called friends to intervene or asked anyone to talk to her for me. It feels too personal, too raw. This is something between the two of us, even if it doesn't feel like us anymore. And I should have clarified earlier, I haven't been entirely out of contact with Nadine since I left. She's still been messaging me. Sometimes it's little things, like a meme we would have laughed at together, or some story about her coworkers. It almost feels normal, like for a second we're still us. But then she'll switch, and I'll get a long string of texts accusing me again, begging me to tell her the truth. I don't even know what the truth is anymore. I'm so tired, mentally drained. I've brought up therapy a few times, but it always fizzles out. She either ignores it or shuts down. Maybe if Mom mentions it, Nadine will actually hear it. Or maybe not. I don't know. I feel like I'm grasping at pieces of someone who doesn't exist anymore. And I know how this must sound. I do. That's why I want to say this clearly. Please don't speak badly about my wife. I'm heartbroken and confused, but I don't hate her. Nadine is a brilliant woman. She's funny in the quietest ways, the kind that sneaks up on you. She's always been thoughtful and kind. She's been a beautiful mother to Leela. And that's exactly why the last few months have terrified me, because this behavior is nothing like the Nadine I know. 3 days ago, a friend of mine told me about this online space, somewhere people share personal stories when they feel completely lost. That's what brought me here. I don't know if this is the right place, but I'm going to write what I can. Maybe just putting it into words will help me breathe a little better. Nadine and I have been married for 13 years, 16 if you count the whole journey. When we first started dating, she told me she was low contact with her family. I didn't press. I have PTSD from my time in the Navy, and I know what it's like to carry around pieces of yourself that are too painful to explain. My family welcomed her with open arms, and I never saw a reason to pry. But right before I proposed, she opened up more, told me the truth. Nadine came from a deeply fundamentalist Christian household, not the gentle kind. It was rigid, authoritarian, and deeply damaging. She told me about the umbrella of authority, about obedience and shame, and the belief that women were meant to serve and submit. She was married off at 16 to the 19-year-old son of family friends. In some twisted way, she was lucky. Her ex-husband moved her far from her parents, which gave her just enough distance to finish high school and start college. He wanted out of the cult too, I think. They had Leela when Nadine was 21 years old. He finished his degree, went off to graduate school in Europe, and they divorced soon after. She returned home with her daughter. And that's when things got worse. Her family tried to force her into another marriage, this time to a man more than twice her age. She said no. That no nearly cost her everything. From what she shared, there was violence, threats. She hinted at an attempted kidnapping, even sexual assault. Eventually, she escaped. She took Leela, moved in with a distant aunt in Kalamazoo, and cut ties with nearly everyone from her old life. And then, a few years later, she met me. We built something quiet, something simple. For years, I truly believed we were healing each other. But something changed this year. Something snapped. She's a nurse, and the pandemic wrecked her. She worked for days without breaks, without sleep. I started noticing it then, how short her temper was becoming, how much more often she pulled away. I asked her to take time off. I knew she was burned out. I saw it every time she stared at nothing across the dinner table. The last time I asked, she exploded, told me I was cheating, said she had proof. I begged her to show me. She threw my laptop instead. That was the night I left. Later, we fought again over the phone. She said she'd send the proof to her lawyer. I told her to send it to mine, too. Since then, most of our communication has been through text. Sometimes light, sometimes bitter, sometimes just lost. But every now and then, she'll message me again. Just 4 words. Why won't you confess? For weeks, I waited, trapped in this suffocating silence, wondering what Nadine thought she knew, hoping she'd finally speak to me like she used to, like the woman I married, but she never really did. Just memes, random stories from work. Then another angry message, always circling back to the same plea, just tell me the truth. But I didn't have a truth to give her, not the one she was so desperate to hear. I thought I might never know what she believed until a few days ago, when she came to my parents' house without warning. She looked tired, not in the way a nurse looks after a long shift, but broken. Like something inside her had been hollowed out. I invited her in. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, and for a long time, we just stared at each other. Then she finally said it. The proof. One of her co-workers had claimed to see me having lunch with a much younger woman. I froze. A younger woman? Okay, I could handle that. I asked her calmly, where? When? What did she look like? But as she described what the coworker saw, it didn't take me long to piece it together. She was talking about Leela, my daughter. Every so often, Leela and I grab lunch together when she's on break from classes, sometimes at the hospital where Nadine works. Apparently, her coworker had seen us and jumped to conclusions. But here's the part that gutted me. Nadine already knew the woman described was Leela. She knew. And still she came here implying that I was having an affair with the child I helped raise, the same little girl who once called me Daddy while holding my hand crossing the street. I tried not to get angry. I know what her family did to her. I know the trauma, the fear, the sick way they twisted love into control. But this wasn't fear. It felt like betrayal. The conversation crumbled into another argument. Somewhere in the shouting, she admitted that it wasn't just a random coworker who'd told her, it was her cousin, Shalia. And Shalia is still deep in the church. It all started unraveling then. Nadine had been reconnecting with Shalia during her free time, not just phone calls, but attending church meetings. Even talking to her father again, the same man who once tried to marry her off to someone nearly twice her age. And I wouldn't have minded if she wanted to rediscover her faith. If she found peace in it, I would have supported her. But this wasn't about peace. It was about control, contradictions, manipulation. One moment she claimed I was in my prime to have children. I'm 46. That ship sailed a while ago. She brought up Leela again, twisting her youth into something shameful, blaming her for somehow tempting me. I wanted to throw up. I couldn't believe the words were coming out of Nadine's mouth. Then she turned on my family, said my dad, who's secular Jewish, was evil, that I carried his sin, that my mom was worse because she abandoned Christianity, even though she was raised Catholic and hadn't practiced in decades. This same woman, my mother, who has loved Nadine fiercely, who calls her daughter, who sat beside her in every waiting room, every family dinner, every holiday. Now she was a villain too. And worst of all, the part I can't seem to scrub from my mind is when Nadine blamed Leela. Said our daughter, our sweet, brilliant, big-hearted Leela, was flaunting herself. That she was too grown up, too close to me. That's when I shut down. That's when I called the lawyer. I'd tried everything. I had begged her to take time off from work. I'd offered therapy again and again, and now I saw what she thought of me, of Leela, of my entire family. She kept talking. Said I wasn't a good provider, that she only worked because I failed her. I reminded her, gently, that I had been telling her to rest, to heal, to stop working for over a year. But even that was twisted. She said it was proof I was trying to isolate her. She said my suggestions for therapy were manipulation, brainwashing, that I wanted her to accept my affair with Leela. I couldn't even respond. She spiraled for what felt like hours before I finally asked her to leave. She slammed the door behind her. That night, Leela called me. Her voice was shaking. Nadine had told her things, vile things that no child should ever hear from their mother. So I told Leela to pack a bag and come stay here. And now, Nadine thinks we're living together. She's convinced it's all true. I don't know where her faith ends and the delusions begin. I don't know how to separate the trauma from the damage she's doing now. All I know is, I think my marriage is over. And I don't know how to mourn it when the person I loved isn't even there anymore. I don't know how I missed things falling apart like this. I don't know how I let everything unravel right in front of me. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I couldn't. A week passed since the last time Nadine and I spoke. Today we sat down for what might have been our final real conversation. I asked her to meet in person, to talk, not to fight. I needed to begin the process. Divorce. We've spent over a decade building a life that's now crumbling at our feet. Our finances, our home, our habits, our daughter, it's all tangled up in this mess. I've been paying Lila's tuition. Her health insurance still comes through Nadine's job. I paid the down payment on the house, but she's put in just as much over the years. Lawyers will handle the logistics. That's the easy part, really. The part with numbers and contracts. But I needed her to see what this really meant, that this wasn't just a word we threw around. Divorce means an ending. It means our life, this life we shared, built, fought for, is over. We're not old, Nadine and I. We can still start over, in theory. But that doesn't make this less painful. I've been her husband for so long, I don't know who I am without that role, without her. When I got home afterward, I opened a bottle. I know how bad that is. I just needed to shut everything off. I sat there, glass after glass, just trying to stop seeing her face, her eyes refusing to meet mine, her voice dull, her expression hollow. I don't know this woman anymore, and the thought that maybe I never really did, that maybe she wore a mask all these years, the same way I did with clients, with coworkers, it cuts deeper than anything else. My therapist once said masking is a survival tool. PTSD, ADHD, it trains you to smile through fire. But at home, I thought I didn't have to mask. I thought this was where I was safe. Now I wonder, was Nadine ever happy with me? Did she choose me because I was safe, stable, a decent father figure for her daughter? Was I just convenient? I'm not blind. I know I'm not some striking guy. I'm not hideous, but I'm ordinary. Our intimacy always seemed fine, more than fine. But now I question everything. Was she ever really there with me? Or just going through the motions because of what she was taught? Be obedient, please your husband, don't question, don't speak. I feel sick wondering if I unintentionally became part of the pattern that traumatized her in the first place, if I ever touched her when she didn't want to be touched. Not because I forced her, but because she didn't know how to say no. That thought destroys me. And then there's Lila. She's trying so hard to be strong, stoic even, but she's just a kid. 21, yes, but still a kid. She's my kid. She taught me how to knit when I was losing my grip during lockdown. I taught her how to fish when she was 8, and now she's better at it than I am. And she's hurting. I can see it in her eyes, in the way she's quiet even when she's trying to smile. I hate Nadine for what she said to her, for planting doubt in her heart, for making her feel unsafe in her own family. And yet, I still love Nadine, and that's what hurts the most. I came back here to try to find something, some reason, some clarity, some comfort. I read theories about whether she's cheating, whether this is hormonal, psychological, spiritual. None of that matters now. I thought we could fix this. I thought if I worked hard enough, held on tight enough, we could make it through. But it's over. It's just over. Let that be the lesson. Sometimes things end, not because someone didn't fight hard enough, not because someone failed, but because something inside the other person breaks and there's nothing you can do to fix it. What Elliot went through isn't just a story. It's a mirror many people eventually face when love becomes tangled with trauma, confusion, and emotional instability. In relationships, especially long-term ones, we often ignore early signs of emotional change, hoping it's just a rough patch. But some patterns, like baseless accusations, gaslighting, or sudden personality shifts, are more than just stress. They can signal deeper emotional wounds, unresolved trauma, or even manipulation. If you ever find yourself being accused of things you didn't do, constantly defending yourself, or feeling unsafe emotionally in your own home, that's not something to brush aside. It's not just a phase, it's a signal. Seek help. Whether through therapy, support groups, or a trusted loved one, get your bearings before you drown in someone else's storm. And if you're the one dealing with unresolved trauma, don't let it turn into fire that burns your home down. Get help before it's too late. Love can't fix everything. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to let go.